Everyone, let's wrap up January. Did anybody else forget how horrible January is going into the months? Or was it just me? Anyways, January had its ups and downs. I started off really well trying to make more content. I had my Booktube anniversary. It's been 13 years. Unbelievable. I'm basically aiming for more videos again this year, so I'm working less and the stress has gone down. And so far I've uploaded a weekend vlog and a staycation vlog where I had a few days off and I talked about most of the books that I read. Not all of them, but most of them. So I really enjoyed your comments and your commentary and interacting with you. And I also managed to upload a letter to January again, since all of you liked them so much. Thank you very much for missing them when I didn't really feel like writing anything for November and December. But now let's look at January reading the books. So I started off really with my goals and decided I want to finish sequels and series and picked up Brandon Sanderson's Hero of Ages, the third book in the Mistborn series, which I found out is the final book in the first original trilogy. I always had the idea that I have to read all 6 books or 7 books in the series, but I actually could take a break now, which I probably might do. So Hero of Ages is the third book of the first trilogy in the Mistborn saga, where you have a world where people have special powers if they swallow kind of metals and they can use them and do superhuman things. I'm doing a bad summary. Everybody can sum up that series better than me. It's the third book. It was one of the bigger books and it was long. And for the first time I tried reading a book and at the same time listening to it, because even though I want to read more big books and I wanted to read and finish the series and read more Sanderson books, I kind of didn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping for. I found myself not caring about what is going on as much anymore, about the characters, the writing, anything. So using the audio as well as reading it really helped me get through it. But on the other side, I only read one thing then at the time, which is rare for me these days. I usually read something and listen to something else. So that was strange. And then I got sick and my brain said, I don't want to read this difficult, complex story. I want something simple. So I picked up light novels. I picked up the Scum Villain Self-Saving System series and I read book 1, then book 2, continued with book 3 and finished it up with book 4. Although I have to say book 4 is mostly short stories and stories that are either left out of the finished first 3 novels which tell the whole story or for other reasons added afterwards. And as I said, this was more lighthearted or easier to read, less complex, even though it was a long series as well. But the style the light novels are written, as far as I understand, is very compelling and you can't put them down. And it's very fast-paced and a lot of action-packed. So it's not too complex. It's very captivating. This storyline follows a reader who read a web series, was really not in love with it, hated it at the end, cursed at the author and the things that happened, and for a reward he got sucked into the novel and had to fix all the things that were wrong with it. So he finds himself inside of one of the characters and a system telling him you need to do this, and this gets points and deducts points and all these things. So he's stuck in the original work of it's called a stallion novel, I guess. That's what you describe as a super masculine hero type main character who basically sleeps with everyone. I think like that. And it's a fantasy setting of demons and mortal realm. And I enjoyed it for the story part. There's also a romance relationship part of the story. Oh, glaring. Sorry. That I wasn't as much in love with. So I really enjoyed the concept of having a reader being sucked into the work that he criticizes and dealing with plot points, and you can see him giddy and excited about things that he really liked in the story, but you can also see him confused when things don't go the way he expected them to go. And I enjoyed that. I wasn't completely in love with that. The relationship is a master-disciple or teacher-student kind of relationship, even though when they're grown up and older and not when it feels inappropriate, but I always feel it does kind of feel like power struggle inappropriate. So maybe that's not your thing, so you could skip that. And like I said, the first 3 books tell the complete story, and the 4th book is adding on with extra information, extra story, and more graphic sex than before. Before we move on to the audiobooks, let's talk about my favorite book of the month, Alone with You in the Ether. I had not heard about this before. I don't know how I missed it, probably because the author is the author of the Atlas 6 or whatever it's called, and I've never been interested in that. So the author is not on my radar at all, but somehow I heard about it in someone's favorite books. I think it was Jack Edwards? I don't remember. Anyways, I fell in love with whatever it said. I loved the title, the cover. I was just like in a mood for something that felt a little faster and also a little bit more literary. And I loved this. The writing really spoke to me from the beginning. We have a part when it starts where we get to know both characters. There's a male and a female character, and they both have mental health issues, and they get introduced alternatingly. And we learn about who they are in the beginning, and we also get some commentary from an off voice or an omniscient narrator in that it's setting the scene and it's commenting on what is happening. That's a style of writing I really enjoy. After that, after the first part, this style of writing disappears a little bit. We're still alternating between the 2 characters. We're inside their heads, but we're also much more inside their interactions. The second part is more about conversations where they have conversations getting to know each other. And I really enjoyed the way the book tells the story, the way we see both sides. We see how they interpret things, how their mental health has them interpret things and look at life and look at themselves, and how they interact and what they say to each other, what they don't say, and the ups and downs and things that happen. I highly, highly enjoyed this. And I would recommend it to anyone if I knew it was a book for anyone, but it isn't. I think that a lot of people might not like the style of writing. I looked up 1-star reviews just for curiosity, what people didn't like about the book. And a lot of it seemed to be that the people didn't like the female character. And the female character has a mood disorder. So she's not a particularly likable person. So it's not like someone you meet and you immediately like. She has issues. She has flaws. And that is something I liked about the book, the reality and realistic portrayal of these characters. They were not just vanilla people that you can like. They have a quirk or something, but they had real problems. They had issues, and that's why they had problems and issues in their social interactions. And I find it kind of sad that exactly that is what people hated about the book, or that they hate the character that has trouble being liked by people already in the first place due to the mental health. Another comment said that they didn't like the way that the book treats medication, because at some point the girl goes off a medication. But that's addressed in the acknowledgements, that is not a treatment or against medication, and that the author has a mood disorder herself and really wanted to show and use this plot point or device as how medication changes people's perceptions or even their personality. And I really, really liked it for that. That's what I really liked about the book. Apart from the characters, I loved them and the writing. So I can't wait to read this again and see if it lives up to what I expect now of it, or if the second time I read it, I'll be, sometimes that happens, but I don't think so. So let me know if you have read that and what you thought about the characters. Now let's move on to audiobooks, because when you want to talk about audiobooks, I think most of it is not really memorable. I listen to Man's Search of Meaning because I'm a little bit lost of what I want to do and where I want to go, and the changes in the job are kind of affecting my meaning because the new job will have less meaning. For me, apparently, as I'm noticing now that it's going away, the old job. Anyways, so Man's Search of Meaning is the story of Viktor Frankl and his time in the Nazi camps and afterwards, and how he survived it and how he treated it, and also some about his psychology or his psychological treatment, whatever you want to call it. See, that's what I'm saying. It's not very memorable. I heard the theory of how Viktor Frankl has often been quoted and talked about in other contexts of people that I heard or listened to and talk about or came across the concept of that if you have a meaning or if you have a place to escape to in your mind, you can deal with much more suffering. I probably paraphrased that the wrong way, but I've heard his name come around a lot, and then I saw the audiobook and I thought, oh, why not? It's a short audiobook. Let's see what it's about. And like I said, I'm searching a little bit for meaning or what to do with life and things like that. And it's always said that having meaning in life is better for you and you feel better and things like that. And it's winter, I don't feel good. Anyways, so while the first part is talking about his experience in the camps, and the second part is talking about the psychology and more life advice thing. And it is easy to listen to it. The first part is on purpose more about the people than about the gruesomeness and some other looks that you don't really normally read in the camp narrations, although I'm not really sure if that is still true. It might have been true when he wrote it, I think back in the 50s. So I'm not sure what to make of that, but I thought it was rather interesting and easy to listen to, leaving aside the concept of what's talking about anyways, but from the way the story was told, it was very well done. And also the way the psychology, I forgot the name honestly, that the treatment that he developed or the theory that he developed is also explained rather well, but I found it to be, not memorable. I forgot a lot about it. Just as about the second book, then I listened to, which turned out to be a podcast that was turned into a book by Audible, which is A Quiet Life in 7 Steps. So there were different podcasts that talked about the step of how to reach a quieter life or a quiet life and things. And while I enjoyed the first and the second parts, or the first and the second steps, the more the book continued, the more woo-woo it got. And I was just like, I really don't think this is for me. So I couldn't tell you anything about it anymore. Forgot most of it. Probably not too much worth for me then. The last audiobook I want to talk about is Orbital, which is not nonfiction, but it does feel a lot like it. It's the fictional account of astronauts in the ISS orbiting Earth and what they see, what they experience. It's a little bit about their characters and their lives before going to space and in space, and also how being in space affects what they see and their reactions and their thoughts they're having. On Earth, there is a typhoon running wild as they are, and they keep seeing it as they orbit and the devastation that is put out by it, liking words here. But overall, it started off rather nice. The audiobook was really comforting in the way it was told, but as it progressed, I found it very monotonous. Not a lot of things changed or happened, and the things that happened and the thoughts the astronauts had were not mind-blowing or something. It was things that I had heard before, and I felt very distant to the characters, so we couldn't connect to the characters. I didn't feel any connection with any of the astronauts, so I ended up not really caring about them. At some point I had the feeling that this would be an interesting documentary with pictures and images and interviews, but as the audiobook, as the way I listened to it, it turned into background noise at some point where I might have skipped over some of the things they said, because at the end it was too much beautiful language that it blended into each other so nothing stuck out. And the same with the insightful ideas and thoughts they had. It was just a blend of things where nothing stood out at the end. So it was okay to listen to, and it was really well done. But overall, I kind of think I expected more of it, but I couldn't say in what part. But it left me distance and also can't remember any of the beautiful things they said. So overall, January was a good reading month, definitely on amount and also on content. I had a good time. I can't say I didn't enjoy the audiobooks and the books that I read. I enjoyed my time with them, and I really think I had a good start to the year, especially with my goals of reading 100 books and reading bigger books. But now, starting February, I noticed that I picked a 25-hour audiobook that I'm about, and a 400 or 500 page book that I am enjoying, but actually today I'm not in the mood to read. So I might fall behind, but that's not so bad. It's just February, and February is the shortest month anyway. Let me know in comments how your January reading was, or anything January. Did you have a good start to the year? Did you have a little bit of a bumpy start like me with being sick and strange books that you randomly picked you didn't have any plans to read? Or whatever. Let's start January, and thank you all for watching.